support our coverage with a free account on Privacy, the service that keeps you protected when shopping online. Get $5 to try it now by using promo code QZZ2J.
Well, we have our next guest here. Hello.
Hi there.
How are you doing today?
Very good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Go ahead and introduce yourself for me.
My name is Bob Jelinas. I'm the Vice President of Sales for Softengi USA. And we are, Softengi is a software engineering company. It's been around for about 25 years.
Okay.
And the last 10 years or so, we've been primarily focused in the wonderful world of artificial intelligence.
You were there before it was cool.
Exactly. Well, and we actually are helping emerge the market that we have now, in the sense that what we came here to the show to do was to announce a new framework technology that actually came from, we built it for ourselves.
Okay.
We needed it.
Fair enough.
And but it has a lot of everyday person consumer applications and so forth. But the real sort of magic of it is that it is a software platform that you build use cases on top of. And like, for example, if anyone out there has ever say had a legal issue and you called a lawyer or you called the city or whatever, it's not uncommon, let's say, that you have talked to 5 different people and get 5 different answers, none of which agree, and probably none of which are correct.
Nobody's ever encountered that with the government.
So a recent project we did with this technology was for the lovely island country of Jamaica.
Okay.
We completely absorbed and ingested their entire Justice Department. We actually digitized and vectorized all of their data back to the 17th century.
Ooh.
We actually, if you can imagine the old dusty leather-bound volumes of everything back to maritime pirate law and all that.
I'm impressed that all of that still existed.
It does. And in many cases, it's still applicable.
Okay.
And so the idea was take all that information, put it in one centralized knowledge base of truth. Okay, that's the way you look at it. And now you can go to an AI chatbot, which means conversationally. You can type or talk, and it'll do speech to text or whatever, and ask it any question, any legal question you might have, and you'll get the correct answer instantly. And not from a bunch of opinions, but what the law states.
Okay.
And that can be anything from as simple as, hey, I want to start a business. I want to open a barber shop. What do I have to do? This is what you got to do. To something maybe a little more complicated, like, hey, I think somebody wronged me. Do I have a case?
Okay.
And the dialogue of the chatbot will tell me what happened.
Yeah.
You know, and through that conversation to actually tell you the real story of what you need to know. But where that system came to life for us was that we needed it for the buying and selling process. So if any of you sales guys out there are looking for better ways to make your quotas and increase your commissions and so forth, we've actually done a lot of projects globally for major countries and things and telephone systems and a lot of big stuff. And that process is very much dominated by the whole request for proposal, tender, RFP kind of world.
Yeah.
Where, like most RFPs you don't count the pages, you weigh them, you know, and you're talking about documents that, for the most part, people take months to read, and what happens after those months? You decide, this is garbage, I don't want to do this.
Right.
Okay, so
we're in that process right now.
Well, we should talk after.
Absolutely.
Okay. What we did was we averaged bidding on approximately 100 RFPs a year, winning 2 major ones, you know, which was really good for us. And through this system, that's why we built it, we were able to create a knowledge base of all of our capabilities and what we did, and basically comprised of every proposal we've ever made, you know, in life. And we could take, let's say, find 100 RFPs that might be of interest. We can read them all in less than an hour and know in that time what are the 5 that we have the best chance to win.
Okay.
Okay. We can also, for a seller who's kicking out an RFP, they create their 1,000-page document and send it out and get 500 responses. Same thing, within less than an hour, all of them will be read, and they'll tell you, here's your short list of 10 that meet everything you're looking for. So you're basically facing months to minutes, you know, is what that particular use case does.
Sure.
And the one that we're kind of excited about, so for all of you folks in the audit and compliance world, the same machine can be used technology, that is, to take any kind of compliance or audit data, whether it be like a financial audit, or cybersecurity, or just anything where somebody's got to come in and inspect and make sure you're up to snuff on whatever. And all that information becomes the knowledge base. So now, okay, I'm going to do this financial audit. Okay, it's the XYZ dash whatever audit. Okay, fine. Click. Here's the information I need. You get your checklist. You bring all your evidence in, and you present that. And the system will, it's not just pass or fail. It'll actually come back and say, okay, you're great in all these 14 areas, but on these 3, we got some issues.
Okay.
And here's the 19 things you could do to fix that. And so the purpose of it is to actually help you pass and help you get through and remedy anything that's out there. But it's sort of an open-ended type of platform in the sense that any use cases that people are coming up with and thinking about, is, well, let's talk. Because that's what we do, is custom build software for people's needs.
Okay.
But yeah, we're seeing a lot of happy campers out there with stuff like that.
Do you have any issues with hallucinations? Obviously, anytime you ingest data, sometimes it can hiccup. How do you test for hallucinations?
Well, I'll tell you explicitly in a second, but we were just talking, me and my colleague over there this morning over breakfast, about the fact that a machine can only play with what you give it. The garbage in, garbage out kind of thing.
Yepers.
And it's a kind of idea where a machine doesn't have the capacity to know truth from a lie.
Right.
And so what we look for is conflicts and for collisions of information. When you're ingesting all this, it's going to, in fact, it's part of a 3-phase process. The way you implement a system like this, and that's really what we do for a living, is roll these out and implement them because they're unique for every client. Is step 1, phase 1, is gather up all the information. Okay, and there's so much garbage in that it's not even funny. Okay, step 2 is validation, sanitization.
Yeah,
that's where that comes in.
Okay,
because step 3 is use the clean data. Go from there. But as far as the lies and the discrepancies that in the data, it will actually identify areas that are uncertain, and somebody has to come in and play referee and say, that's right, that's wrong. And from that point, it only knows what it's been told. And so that's why it's probably healthy for a lot of people to always maintain a certain degree of skepticism
sure.
about these type of environments.
Right. And, the more sources of knowledge, the more likely it is that something conflicts, and that's where things start to get weird, right? That's why something like ChatGPT or Google Gemini will just...
Which kids you should not use to fill out your essays.
Absolutely not, because they'll just make stuff up, right?
Of course.
Google was giving a recipe for, was it macaroni and cheese that included Dawn? We assume because it got confused with washing the dishes after cooking.
Well, but in a more sort of deadly serious kind of vein, if the source of your large language model is internet information, etc. Think about just a couple of years ago of all the recommendations we were being told about COVID. You need to do this, that, and the other thing. And then today, all these scientists come out and go, no, that was all garbage. That didn't help. That actually hurt people.
And even sometimes from week to week, at the time, things were changing. And so you've got now what was recommended this week, next week, last week. What's the truth? The computer doesn't have any idea.
Right.
That's
so
not
you
its
have to
job.
adopt the President Reagan philosophy of trust but verify.
So when you're doing the verification and the sanitization, is that technology you've built, or are you using something like Pentaho, or?
We primarily developed ourselves proprietary-wise the math models. The large language models are typically open source or third party that we've brought into there. So, and it's in a, again, not carved in stone kind of environment where we can say, okay, for this application it's best if we have this little chess piece and that piece, but you don't need the one-size-fits-all type approach, which is always the wrong way to go.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Very cool. Obviously, this is an area of interest of mine for several reasons, not the least of which is general AI seems to kick out nonsense.
What we're seeing as the little red light go on in people's eyes, that strikes the chord, is this whole idea of a central knowledge base of truth. That, because most organizations out there have 97 departments and they all have their own data and none of them talk to each other, and it all talks about all the same people.
465 departments in the federal government right now.
And it's all talking about us, right? We're the citizens. And the whole idea is, where can all of that information come together? Like I was talking to a gentleman earlier from the VA, and he told me he said, the motto of the VA is, if you've worked at a VA hospital, you've worked at one VA hospital.
Because the next one's nothing like it.
Exactly. And so that's really what a lot of this technology is, the utopia is designed to understand, is that when we vectorize data, and that was a learning step for me, is to understand it's not a language function, it's a meaning function. And you can quantify that mathematically. And suddenly amazing things start to open up. And it really gets close to, we call it artificial intelligence, but you can almost think it can think a little bit and start, because what artificial intelligence does best is pattern recognition.
Yes.
And
that's what all computers do best, is pattern recognition.
But the real bonus with AI is that it can do it at such scale that beyond that which a human could hold in one head.
It's able to recognize the patterns across a wider landscape.
The universe,
It's
Absolutely. Like the example being like, if you go to your local library, and if you could memorize every book in your library, that would be a hard thing to do, right? And people, of course. What if you had something that could do that for every library?
Right.
And that's the scale we're talking about.
Absolutely. Absolutely wild. Obviously, it's an interesting topic. People are going to want to find out more, and I imagine out there's people who are going to want to contact you on this.
Sure.
How can they do that?
Softengi.com, SOFTENGI, think software engineering, softengi.com. If you're here at the show today, tomorrow, stop by our booth, 51159. It's the Ukrainian Pavilion is where we're located. And if you come by, you can pick up, we have cutesy little product cards for each of these technologies I was telling you about. Here, I'll leave these with you. That has a QR code on it, and if you scan those with your phone, you can get just oceans of information about each area of these use cases that I've shared with you.
Very cool. Well, I definitely appreciate this. I'm intrigued by AI in general, but not general AI, which is fascinating, right? Like we use it for interpreting this interview and helping to put together the write-up at the end.
Oh, excellent.
But I'm not interested in what Gemini has to say about the world because it comes out as chaos. There's fascinating, focused use cases like what we're talking about here, where you're analyzing your own data, but when you're analyzing the internet, you end up with Twitter. And that data is going to confuse everything.
Well, that's our primary business model, is not so many engineers, and sorry engineers, this is just the truth, just brace yourself, love technology for technology's sake.
Oh.
If we build it, they will come.
Sometimes, because I can tell you, I am the opposite. I avoid most of this stuff at all costs.
Our strategy is pretty straightforward in that, find a cure for a disease, then go find out everybody that's sick with that.
Indeed.
That's
for
what
sure.
we do.
Makes sense.
Thank you, man.
Thanks for coming up and talking to me.
Okay.
Have a good rest of the show.
Okay. Bye-bye.
The Tech Podcast Network CES 2025 coverage is executive produced by Adam Barker. Technical director is Kirk Corliss. Associate producers are Nancy Ertz, Tracy Ingram, Xerxes Goddard, Brandy Jackson, and Aviva Cram. Voiceover by Aaron Hurst. Our hosts are Marlo Anderson, Don Bain, and Scott Ertz. Studio and equipment are provided by PLUGHITZ Productions. The TPN studio executive is Todd Cochran. This has been a Tech Podcast Network production, copyright 2025.